The topic for our industry to be able to take a look at the generational divides that we currently have in today's workplace, and I'm going to give a little bit of a brief overview, and then we'll introduce our panelists and have a bit of a lively discussion, hopefully, surrounding this topic. Generational gaps, is this a new thing? You know, why is it that we have a lot of conversations and topics, and why are there so many things in the media about it these days? I've got a quote here: "Our youth have a contempt for authority. They show disrespect for our elders." Anybody have any idea who might have said that, or what time period that might have been said in?
Ben Franklin?
Ben Franklin? Ben Franklin's good. Confucius is actually closer. Socrates, 400 years BC. So this is not necessarily a new and unique issue. This is something that we faced for a couple millennia now. But why does this seem new? Well, there's a couple of reasons that are out there. Our life expectancy has grown tremendously over the last century. In 1920, you could expect to live to your mid-50s. Now, we're living closer to our 80s, so that means that more of us are living longer, our productive years are continuing to expand, and so therefore we have more generations that are within the workplace at the same time, which accentuates some of these divides and gaps between us. Social psychologists say that among democratic nations, at least, that really each generation upon itself is unique in the way that we change the political atmosphere that they see, new technologies that come on board. They're really a unique group of people, and they analyze them that way. Yet, I think that the last century has helped to prove with technological advancement that some of the ways that we grow up are much different than what would have happened in the early 1900s. It's really a digital cavern that we're talking about is the gap that we currently face. In the past 30 years, technology has created a radical divide between groups of people that have grown up with it, and they're broken down into two main categories, and some of these may be familiar to you folks, called technology immigrants and technology natives. Technology immigrant is typically a Gen X and baby boomer folks that have learned to adapt to these new technologies that come online. I remember the advent of the fax machine and the answering machine and things like this that were more analog phase that came online and helped to change our personal lives as well as then the ways that we operated our businesses. Technology natives, on the other hand, are folks that pretty much come out of the womb with an iPhone in their hand. And I swear to God, Apple's going to produce the iBaby at some point. So, patent pending. Get some royalties, hopefully. But these are folks that have grown up and they know nothing different. And so you start to then look at the world through that lens, and you start to understand and identify why we see things differently, what our expectations of productivity are, what our expectations for our jobs and for our lives and efficiency are. Technology has really proven critical within the workplace. A simple thing, folks that have a wristwatch, would you raise your hand real quick? Show us which hand you're doing. Great. Usually the majority of people that raise their hand are over the age of 40, which is interesting. Folks that didn't raise their hand, raise up what you use to tell time. Phone.
No phones.
Again, a generalization, but it's an interesting thing, and one simple thing that dictates the majority of our lives, time, the ticking second, how we utilize that time. We use a different mechanism to be able to see that. I want to tell a brief anecdotal story about a fictional company XYZ. They've got a standing 9 a.m. Monday morning sales meeting. At 8:45, in walks the baby boomer. He's got there early, he's got his pressed suit, he's got his tie on, pulls out his BlackBerry, no messages, sets it down on the table, sits there for a second, sinks in, wonders where his colleagues are, decides, I'll check on a little bit of email, pops open his Dell notebook computer. About 8:55, in walks the baby boomer, the Gen Xer. She's talking on her iPhone in one hand. She's giving instructions as to where the diaper cream is back to her husband, who's at home on paternity leave, because she's the breadwinner in this family. She's wearing casual khakis and kind of there. She's got her Starbucks in hand. She finishes the conversation. She says hello to her colleague. Says that she needs to check a few emails as well. Pops open her Apple MacBook. Starts hacking away. In the back of the baby boomer's mind, he's wondering if she's going to answer some of the emails that she never got back to him about last week. 9 o'clock sales meetings, tick, tick, tick. They were still waiting for the last colleague to come in. It was a Generation Y individual. At 9:02, her iPhone buzzes and his BlackBerry buzzes at the same time. Well, it's a text from the Gen Y guy. He went to New York over the weekend. He didn't make his flight last night. He's wondering if he can Skype into the meeting. Does this sound vaguely familiar? Again,